always a bit tense when you hook your first fish. And although it's a beautiful day, it's not the best day for catching fish. But it's nice to get ourselves a bite. Hopefully get this one on the net. Please go in the net. You know, some people knock this style of fishing, but I tell you, some of the matchmen have got it absolutely brilliant, because some of these fisheries can be so much fun. Just look at this fight now. You know, you match the tackle to what you're fishing for. You don't need to come here with your buzzers and your big carp rods. Just like here. And it's just really, really good sport. He's in. Okay, so after an absolute brutal fight, we've got one in the net on the new Korum floating feeder. Lovely fish. It's a warm day, so we'll get him back quick. Okay, so we've hooked another. Just getting quite difficult now to get their interest for any length of time. They sort of feed, and you can see them tapping the feeder, and then they kind of take off and start thinking about other things that we all like to think about. Yeah, it's not as big as the first one, this. Still got a bit of fight in them though. So we've gone for like the slow sinking feeder. So it's dropping down through the water. It's letting out the pellets and that super crush, that real light ground bait we're using. And then what we're doing is just fishing along a hook link and just letting it flow behind it. And as it's going down and the wind's just taking it into the corner, it's just moving the bait along, probably naturally, as most of the pellets are falling through the water. And you just see those twitches on the rod tip, just as you know you're getting some action around the feeder. And then with this one, I think Tyrone had just thought it weren't going to go. As it floated round, whop, off it goes. It's been hard work. I can't say it's been easy, but persistence and feeding, we'll talk about it in a minute. Chopping and changing rigs and the feeder, and it's got us another bite or two. Okay, so I'm going to set up how I'm fishing these floating or slow sinking feeders. They can be fished either floating or slow sinking. To be fair, they are a versatile piece of kit, and we'll talk about that a bit more actually once we get it set up. But just the basic setting up, I'm going to put my geeky glasses on because I can't see anything anymore. So the first thing we're using, Ready Ellie kits. Fantastic piece of kit. You'll see all the guys using them. They save a lot of hassle, a lot of having to buy loads of different components. It's all just in one component. So just thread that up the line. I'm using our 8-pound feeder line. Started off on a bit thinner, but some of these carp really are quite powerful, so we're just upping the ante a bit. Feed that up. We've got our Ready Ellie kit. Slides up and down the line. We can position that where we want. On the end of that, I'm keeping it even more simple now. One of our feeder beads. They've got the clip ready on it. And I'm actually tying straight through the bead. It makes a good buffer on the end of the line. Don't worry about the knot. I'm just using it. 5-turn grinner. Pretty standard knot. straight down onto that. So that is in essence all we need to do. I like to have the heli kit down towards the clip. So when I come to put the feeder on, 3 different sizes of feeder. For this one we're going to be using the large one. Fish down on some fish we got feeding in the edge. We've got fish feeding out in open water. We've been catching them on both, but I'm actually going through all the process of putting it all together for you, so you can see that can be adjusted up and down, or if you want a bit more of a gap, you can fish it like that. So it's absolutely, but the one thing you are achieving is you've got that rotary rig going on. Spins round, stops, alleviate tangles, stops line twist, and means you don't have to be using twisting booms and stuff. Twizzle boom, sorry. Okay. Hook link choice, simply down to you. We've seen today that a slightly longer hook link is working better for us than a short one. So I'll tie a quick hook link up for you now. You can see exactly what we're using. Basically what I've done is taken a length of our 6-pound smokescreen hook link, tied a Preston medium band on the end, latex band. I've got a barbless all-rounder. It's barbless on the fishery, so, and the nice thing about this all-rounder pattern, the eye of the hook slightly bent upwards, which really lends itself to just tying it on knotless knot style, which is what I'm about to do. A little bit of separation, not too much. Although these fish do see a lot of rigs, they do see a lot of angling pressure. I think the key to success when you're on waters like this, and certainly it has been today with our fishing, is to create competitive feeding by your feed rate. It's not about just putting some bait out at the start of the day and then hoping that they'll just keep eating it until they get to your hook bait. It doesn't work like that. So there's our rig. Because we've got our heli kit, I'm fishing it probably gonna be, all said and done, about 12 to 16 inches. Figure of 8 loop. Trim the end off. If you can find your scissors, use your scissors. If you can't, bite it off like I have there. So that's the hook link done. So, simple tactic. That was our feeder. It's quick change. We can change it whenever we want. The system's safe because if we snap, our beads just pull off. And then it's just a case of attaching the hook link onto the heli swivel. Just pull that through with the baiting needle and the rabbit that goes over the clip. Dropping the hook link on and then pushing it up tight. And there is our rig. So we've been fishing 2 rigs today. We've been fishing this rig. We started off very short. Very short, wasn't working at all. Went to this length and fishing the feeder, actually slow sinking, so it's going down to the bottom, then we're getting bites. Fish are feeding strangely, even though it's really, really warm. There's only small pods of fish feeding. I think they're getting ready to spawn because of the temperature, but they seem to be wanting to feed harder on the deck. So that, I'll show you in a second how we can get this feeder to sit where we want in the water column. So feeder's slowly sinking, pellet is the hook bait, fishing a balanced pellet, fishing expander, just a dry expander, as that the hook link takes that down as almost like a wafter. It's just laying on the bottom gently, feed's coming down with it, spreading it goes down through the water, and the hook bait's just doing that and slowly going over. So that's been one technique that's working real well for us. The other technique that's been working well for us is to fish a very long hook link and have the feeder almost semi-floating. So when it's got the ground bait on, it's going down into the water slightly, it's starting to give off its feed, and as it's starting to give off its feed, it's coming back towards the top, and our long hook link's just doing that down through the water. So the hook bait's just really, really slowly sinking with the rest of the bait. And because it's quite windy today, we've been letting that almost just tow round in the wind, casting out at a right angle to us and just letting that come round in the wind. Just keeping the tip slightly tight on it, so you can actually feel it come round, and you can see the knocks as the fish start to get onto the feeder, and then we've had a few takes doing that, so that way. So 2 ways that the feeder has been fished today, and both ways have been working for us. So just the same as before, it's gone a little bit quiet. And then we've got a few fish that came round in a group together, got them feeding. They weren't initially into the splash of the feeder hitting the water. So what we've been doing today is casting just upwind of them. And as the content starts emptying out, fishing a longer and longer hook link. You can see this group of fish in front of me now, just swimming just below the surface. And as the sort of feeder's been in for a bit and they've come to investigate what's obviously gone down through the layers of water, just getting that bite as the banded pellets dropped down. Come on, darling. There we go. Okay, so another little one, a common. Fished on the slow sinking feeder, going down, letting go of its contents, and then just because I've got it just so it's buoyant, it just slowly comes back up. Then that long hook link is fishing down where the bait's still swirling through the water. And although we're not getting instant takes, this one was probably only a few minutes. So we've had to persevere with it, but it's really starting to work for us now. There we go. So I talked about this being a slow sinking feeder, and what do I mean by it slow sinking feeder? Well, this on the top is like a bubble float, and that has got enough air. If we've dropped that in now, that will float and the feeder will float. Gives off its feed out there, hook bait hanging down. You can fish it like that. You can fish it with roughly, if you look at the float, there's like a seam down the middle. If you fill it up to halfway, that's pretty much just about slow sinking once it gets the once you've got loaded it with ground bait and some pellet. If you want to fish it straight down, fishing faster down to the bottom and then just bouncing it off the bottom, you know, almost just so with that long hook length coming down, it's about 3/4 full. Now, they've got a rubber grommet in there. See that? It's a rubber grommet in the bottom. You take the rubber grommet out and you've got your hole. Now, they can be quite difficult to fill up with water, but the best method to use is a syringe. So I'm using one of the ones that you would buy for pumping up dead baits, putting air into worms. There's no need for the needle. It's totally blunt. I've got the end on. That fits perfectly into the hole at the end. And then I found that about 2 mil of water is just over half. Right, I'm going to go a touch more on this. So now I'll test that in the water before I cast it out, but I think that on its own with no ground bait in now should just slowly sink, and that is what I'm after with this particular presentation. Yeah, that's perfect. So that's just slowly going down. So I'm going to get a hook bait on this. I'm going to put a bit more feed in over the patch, and then we'll drop it in and see what's there. So that's 3/4, 2/3 full of water, done with the syringe. Hook length about 12 inches. Ready Ellie kit on the top. Real simple, but very, very effective. So that was again a feeder that had gone all the way down. Just feels fish semi-buoyant, so it's almost dancing around on the bottom. You can see the line twitching and moving and the tip moving when the fish are on it and feeding. So we're filling the day up now, pretty much catching one after another. Okay, so we've shown you how to set her up. Real simple, and the same with getting it ready to cast out. So I've put my required amount of water in. I want it to sink slowly, even without the feed. So it goes down, lets it go through the water column, and then the last bit of the feed out from the bottom. So to start with, I'm just putting it straight in the ground bait. It's drying out a bit now, my ground bait. It's extremely hot today, but we don't need it to be packed for casting 100 yards where, well, on this one we're only casting a few yards. So just a little bit of ground bait in the bottom, and that is Sonia's Super Crush. Super light, super fluffy ground bait. One thing I've learnt with this stuff, learnt this off the Sonia guys not long ago, is make it the night before. Make your ground bait the night before. So like I say, make your ground bait the night before. It really does make all the difference. I'm making this, and all I'm putting in is a bit of fish sauce. No oils or anything, just water, bit of fish sauce. If you make it the night before, we do these lovely little tubs, make it in a big bucket, and then these have got the riddle that sits in the top, and I just literally push the ground bait through and riddle it in the morning. You get this lovely fine mix that breaks up almost as soon as it's going down. You do not want claggy, solid ground bait with this. It's just going to plummet to the bottom and not fish to the benefits of what you can do with this feeder. So this feeder can slowly drop through the water, remember. So what we want is a ground bait that'll just break up and just release those baits as it goes through. Inside the feeder, so a bit of ground bait to plug it, little mix of pellet. Fishery rules here dictate we use fishery pellets, that's fine. A few maggots on the top, and those maggots I put in, so I keep them in a bag, or I use scalded maggot. Not because I want to torture maggots, it's simply because as they go down through the water, when they're not wriggling, it's like when something's wriggling, it's swimming, it drops down quick. When it's not, when it's just dead or just lying, I mean, these are just coming back now because taking the oxygen on, but they will come back, but just elongates them a bit, and it just helps those. Like I say, I've thrown them in there, and you can just see them slowly flutter down. And that's what we want. We want a fish suspended through the layers, basically. A little bit of crush on top, and that is ready to cast out. So that fish sauce worked pretty quick, didn't it? Look at that. Well, like I said before, not everybody likes these venues, but this venue at Springley, I mean, it really is great, isn't it? You know, we've filmed here a few times now, and it just doesn't disappoint. And the action you get is incredible. We've caught them in the frost, we've caught them when it's been nice, good fishing weather, and now we're catching them in the burning sun, and I mean, it is burning, isn't it? One after another, slow sinking feeder here at Springley isn't disappointing on these wonderful carp. We've had some great fun. We'll leave them alone now. But literally, however we've fished it today, we've caught fish. Great sport.